she said. I've lived a lot of years. But that night she lived again. I never meant to notice her like that. Not at first. It was the way she leaned against the doorway, as if the weight of years sat quietly on her shoulders, but her eyes, sharp, restless, made it impossible to look away. I told myself I was just being polite, that's all. She was older, twice my age almost. I had no business staring. But I couldn't help it. We'd crossed paths before, work functions, neighborhood hellos, but that night was different. The air was too still, the room too quiet. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat across from me, and for the first time, she didn't bother with the small talk people usually hide behind. You know, she said, not looking at me, I've lived a lot of years. She let it hang there, half smile curling like she already regretted saying it. My throat went dry. I nodded, not sure if she expected an answer. I should have laughed it off, made some safe comment about age being just a number. But I didn't. Something in her tone kept me still, waiting. She shifted in her chair, one leg crossing over the other, and the silence stretched. I swear I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator in the other room. My fingers tapped the rim of my glass without purpose. You think I sound old? She said finally, softer this time. I don't, I answered too quickly. She caught it. Her brow lifted just a fraction. The truth was, she didn't seem old at all. She seemed like someone holding back a storm. Every movement of hers, folding her hands, looking away when my eyes lingered, felt like a choice. Careful, practiced. I tried to steady myself, but my voice betrayed me. What did you mean, though? By living a lot of years? Her lips parted, then closed again. She pressed her thumb against the stem of her glass, tracing it, buying herself time. It means I know what comes after, she said finally. After the first rush of things. After mistakes. After thinking you'll never make another one and then doing it anyway. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to ask about those mistakes, but her tone warned me not to. Instead, I shifted in my chair, the wood creaking too loudly, and looked at her. Really looked. The light above us caught the edge of her hair, the faint silver woven through. She didn't try to hide it. She didn't apologize for it. Somehow, that made her more dangerous. I realized then how quiet I'd gone. She was doing most of the talking, and I was listening too hard. My jaw was tight, my heart stumbling against my ribs. She must have felt it. Her eyes softened, then narrowed, like she saw through me. You're too young to understand, she murmured. But my hand betrayed me. It reached not to touch her, but to push the bottle of wine closer, an unspoken invitation. She glanced at it, then back at me. The corner of her mouth lifted, not in amusement but in something heavier, like resignation. The silence between us thickened. And then she laughed, quiet, almost like she was laughing at herself. I shouldn't be here like this, she said, shaking her head. I swallowed. My chest ached with words I didn't know how to form. I only managed. But you are. Her eyes locked on mine. No more hedging. No more safe distance. For a long moment, neither of us moved. That was the beginning, before regret had a chance to enter, before guilt whispered its warning. It was just two people staring too long, in a room too quiet, with nothing left to hide behind. And I think we both knew something had already shifted. She had that look again, half guarded, half daring me to notice. And I did. I noticed everything. The faint line at the corner of her mouth when she pressed her lips together too tightly. The way her hand always hovered near her glass but rarely finished it. The way she exhaled when she thought no one was listening, as if she'd been holding her breath for years. We sat at her kitchen table, both pretending the hour wasn't too late. She tapped her finger against the wood, not quite rhythm, more like nerves slipping through. I'm not usually like this, she said, eyes fixed on the dark window behind me. Like what? Talking. Sitting here. She drew in a breath, let it out slowly. Letting someone see me past a certain point. I almost laughed, not at her, but at how wrong she was. She thought she was hiding. But she was the most visible person I'd ever sat across from. You think I don't see? I asked, the words escaping before I could cage them. Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp and searching. For a moment I thought I'd pushed too far. But then her shoulders loosened, and she let out a sound that was neither laugh nor sigh. My marriage was. She stopped, her thumb worrying at a ring that wasn't there anymore. Let's just say it lasted longer than it should have. I didn't move. If I leaned in too much, she'd retreat. If I pulled back, she'd close the door. And now? I asked. Now I live alone. She said it plainly, like a fact. But the way her hand lingered on the table, flat against the surface as if steadying herself, told another story. I nodded, biting down on questions I wasn't sure I had the right to ask. What about you? She said, tilting her head. You've still got years ahead of you. All that freedom. Her voice softened on the word freedom, like it didn't belong to her anymore. I tried to answer lightly, but the truth came out instead. Freedom doesn't feel like much when you don't know where you're supposed to be. That made her pause. Her gaze swept over me, quick, almost clinical, before she looked away, pretending to adjust the candle on the table. The flame wavered, casting a shiver of light across her cheek. The silence stretched again, but this time it was thick, loaded with things neither of us wanted to say aloud. Then it happened. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing the back of my hand. Just once. Light, fleeting. Like testing water. I froze. My skin burned from the touch, but I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. When she pulled back, it was too fast, as though she'd made a mistake. Her lips parted like she was about to apologize. I stopped her. Don't. Her eyes locked on mine, startled. A flush crept up her neck, betraying the composure she fought to keep. You shouldn't. She started, but her voice caught. I didn't do anything, I said, though we both knew that wasn't true. My silence, my stare, that was something. She pushed her chair back slightly, as if to break the spell, but the movement only pulled her closer to me instead. Now her knee brushed mine under the table. Neither of us shifted away. Her breath touched my cheek when she leaned in, so near I could almost taste the wine on her lips. My pulse hammered. And then, she stopped. Inches away, suspended. I shouldn't be here like this, she whispered again, repeating the words from earlier. But this time, her voice trembled. I swallowed hard, every muscle in me taut. I wanted to close the distance, to bridge that final inch. But I stayed still, waiting, because it had to be her choice. The clock in the hallway ticked once, twice. Her eyes softened, and for a moment the guardedness slipped away entirely. Her hand found mine again, slower this time, deliberate. Fingers entwined, not just a touch but a claim. And that was it, the moment that shifted everything, binding us in silence. No words, no promises. Just the undeniable electricity of skin against skin, in a room that suddenly felt too small for what passed between us. Her hand was still in mine when the sound cut through. A buzz. Sharp, mechanical, slicing the air between us. Her phone, vibrating on the counter. She jerked back, fingers slipping from mine as if the device had caught us. The absence stung. I stared at the empty space where her warmth had been. She rose too quickly, the chair legs scraping. I should. Her words died as she crossed the kitchen, snatching the phone without looking at me. The screen's glow lit her face. Her silence told me enough. Whoever it was, it mattered. I shifted in my seat, fighting the urge to ask. The clock ticked loud in the stillness. She placed the phone face down, the gesture sharp, final. Then she exhaled, long, weary, and leaned against the counter, arms folded like armor. You should go, she said, not meeting my eyes. My chest tightened. The words sounded like dismissal, but her voice was brittle, breaking. I don't want to, I said. Too honest. It slipped out before I could catch it. Her head turned slightly, just enough that I saw her profile in the dim light. The faintest twitch at the corner of her mouth, uncertainty. You don't understand, she whispered. Then explain it to me. She shook her head, eyes fixed on the dark window again, as if the glass held answers. People talk. They always talk. And me. She pressed her palm flat against the counter, grounding herself. I can't be reckless anymore. The words landed heavy between us. I rose, slowly, as if any sudden move would shatter the fragile thread connecting us. My steps echoed against the tile until I stood just behind her. Close enough that I caught the faint scent of her shampoo, clean, warm, achingly human. She didn't turn, but I saw her shoulders tense. You're too close, she said, voice unsteady. Am I? My words came softer than I meant, almost a plea. A pause. Then her hand twitched, fingers curling against the counter. Not pulling away, not pushing me back. The kitchen felt too small. My pulse was loud in my ears. I leaned closer, slow, testing boundaries. The warmth of her back radiated against my chest, though we didn't touch. Not yet. She drew a shaky breath. This isn't. Her words cut off as the phone buzzed again. Louder this time, insistent. She startled, nearly knocking it over. I caught it before it fell, our hands brushing, electric, searing. Her eyes snapped to mine. Wide. Afraid. Wanting. For a heartbeat, nothing else existed. Just her parted lips, her trembling hands still beneath mine, her breath mingling with mine in the space between. We were close enough to kiss. Too close. And yet, she turned her face, barely, just enough to stop it. Her forehead touched my cheek instead, a whisper of skin against skin. More intimate than lips, somehow. I can't, she breathed, and I felt the words against my skin. But she didn't move away. I closed my eyes, grounding myself in the fragile weight of her leaning into me. My hand hovered at her waist, aching to close the distance, but I held back. The phone finally went silent. The house was still again. Her head rested against me longer than it should have, long enough that it was no accident. Long enough that it bound us tighter than any kiss could have. When she finally pulled back, her eyes shimmered with something she didn't say. Her lips parted, then closed. Either of us confessed. Either of us broke. But we both knew, resisting wasn't distance anymore. It was closeness, unbearable and unspoken. I told myself I wouldn't come back. That leaving her house that night, before anything crossed the line, was the smart thing, the safe thing. But I found myself there again. The excuse was thin. I'd borrowed a book she'd mentioned. She didn't question it, just let me in, her expression unreadable as she stepped aside. The house smelled faintly of rain and coffee. A storm had passed earlier, drops still clung to the window. The air carried that damp, charged heaviness, like the world itself was holding its breath. She wore something simple, an oversized sweater, sleeves pushed to her elbows, but it made her look impossibly softer, unreachable in a different way. We sat on the couch this time. Not across a table, not buffered by furniture. The space between us was measured in inches, not feet. I tried to focus on the book in my hands, flipping pages I didn't read. My pulse betrayed me. I could feel her beside me, every shift of her weight, every small exhale. Why do you keep coming here? She asked suddenly. The words hit like a challenge. I closed the book, set it aside. Do you want me to stop? Her eyes met mine, sharp, searching. But she didn't answer. Instead, she leaned back, her hand rising to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. The motion left her face unguarded, and before I could stop myself, my hand followed, fingers brushing the same strand, tucking it gently away. She stilled. My knuckles grazed her cheek. Her skin was warm. You shouldn't, she whispered. But she didn't move. Her eyes closed, just for a second, as if surrendering to the contact. When they opened again, something raw flickered there, fear, desire, maybe both. You're too young, she said. Her voice was steady, but her breath betrayed her. I leaned closer, my words low, almost against her ear. Then why can't I stay away? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The air between us was charged, heavier than the storm outside. She shifted, and suddenly her shoulder brushed mine. A small movement, but enough to ignite everything I'd been holding back. Her hand moved, hesitant at first, resting lightly against my knee. Not by accident. Not this time. My breath caught. "People will judge," she murmured. "Let them," I said. Too fast. Too certain. She turned toward me fully now, her sweater slipping off one shoulder, baring skin pale in the dim light. My eyes lingered a second too long, and she noticed. "You don't know what you're asking for," she said, shaking her head. But her hand didn't move. If anything, her grip tightened. I raised my hand again, slower this time, brushing hair back from her face. My thumb traced the curve of her temple, barely there, but enough to make her eyes close again. "You don't either," I said quietly. The silence after was unbearable. My heart hammered. Her breathing matched mine, quickening. And then she leaned, just slightly, just enough that our foreheads touched. The contact was tender, electric, devastating. I wanted to close the gap, to end the torment of almost. But she stayed there, trembling against me, refusing to move closer, refusing to move away. "I can't do this," she whispered, but the words shook, hollow against the truth of her body pressed near mine. I tilted my head, lips brushing the corner of hers, close, not quite. My voice broke against her skin. "Then stop me." Her breath hitched. Her fingers dug into my knee, holding on. And just as her lips parted, ready to surrender, a knock at the door. Sharp. Loud. Shattering. We froze. The world outside pressed in again, demanding to be let in. The knock still rang in the air when she pulled away. Too sharply. The loss of her warmth hit me harder than I expected. She stood, crossing the room with brisk movements that felt rehearsed, like she needed something to do with her hands. I stayed frozen on the couch, pulse hammering. Another knock. Louder. Her voice was steadier than her body when she called out. "Just a second." She opened the door a crack. The hallway light spilled in, catching on her face. Then a voice carried through, low but unmistakable. "Still awake?" I knew that voice. A friend of hers, someone I'd seen around, older, respectable. Too respectable. Her laugh came too quickly, forced. "Couldn't sleep." My chest tightened. She angled herself in the doorway, blocking his view inside. But her sweater had slipped further down her shoulder, and I wondered if he saw it, wondered if he noticed the flushed edges of her cheeks. "I heard voices," he said. His tone was casual, but the words landed heavy. Her glance flicked to me, just for a second, before she answered. "Just the TV." My stomach nodded. A lie. A clumsy one. The man lingered another moment, then muttered something about dropping off mail tomorrow. She thanked him too brightly and shut the door. Silence. Her back pressed against the wood as though she needed it to hold her up. Her hand gripped the doorknob until her knuckles whitened. I rose slowly. "You lied." Her eyes shot to mine, sharp, defensive. What was I supposed to say? The space between us felt different now, charged, dangerous. "You could have said I was here," I whispered. She shook her head, hair falling across her face. She pushed it back roughly, avoiding my gaze. "And what would that look like? You, me." Her hand gestured between us, frantic. "It isn't innocent anymore." The words cut deep. Not innocent. She'd said what I hadn't dared admit. I stepped closer. She stiffened, but didn't move away. "So you're ashamed?" Her breath caught. "Don't do that." But her hands trembled, and when I brushed past her toward the kitchen, she didn't stop me. She followed instead, her presence close enough to make the air thick. "Tell me," I said, turning on her. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll leave." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Instead, her chest rose and fell too quickly, sweater slipping farther until it revealed the delicate line of her collarbone. Her silence was louder than any confession. I closed the space between us, slow, deliberate. My hand brushed her arm, fingertips skimming fabric, sending a shiver I could feel ripple through her. She whispered then, voice raw. "You don't know what this could cost me." I leaned closer, my mouth near her ear. "Then why let me stay?" Her eyes fluttered shut, her body tilting almost imperceptibly toward mine, betraying everything her words tried to protect. Her hand rose, as if to push me away, but stopped halfway. Instead, her fingers hovered near my chest, trembling, not quite touching. "Because," she said so softly I almost missed it, "I can't help it either." The admission hit me like fire. My breath stuttered, and I knew, whatever line we'd been towing, it was gone now. I took her hand, pressed it flat against my chest so she could feel my racing heartbeat. Her eyes opened, wide and shining. Either of us spoke. There was nothing left to explain. The world outside, the neighbor, the whispers, the risk, pressed closer, making the moment heavier, sharper. She stepped back then, just one step, but the movement only pulled the tension tighter, like a bowstring stretched to breaking. Her shoulder brushed mine as she passed, the contact fleeting yet deliberate. At the threshold to the hallway, she stopped. Turned. Her voice was steady now, though her hands still shook. "Next time," she said, "we won't be able to stop." Her words hung between us, more binding than a kiss, more dangerous than silence. And I knew she was right. The next time wasn't planned. It never was. I told myself I'd just drop the book back, leave it at her door, no need to knock. But the light was on, and I saw her shadow move inside. My hand betrayed me. I knocked before I thought. She opened the door without hesitation this time, as if she knew it would be me. Her sweater hung loose, hair unpinned, face bare. Softer, unarmored. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but her voice was thin, already defeated. "I know." We stood there, the threshold a fragile boundary. I could have left. She could have closed the door. Either of us moved. Then she stepped aside. I entered. The air was warmer than last time, heavy with the faint scent of tea. The clock ticked too loud in the corner. Every sound felt magnified. She didn't lead me to the couch. She just stood in the center of the room, arms crossed, not from anger but from holding herself together. Her eyes met mine, steady, searching. "Tell me this is the last time." I swallowed, my voice low. "I can't." Her breath caught, and her arms dropped to her sides. The space between us pulsed like a living thing. I closed the distance slowly, every step a question. She didn't step back. When I was inches away, I lifted a hand, brushing hair from her face the way I'd imagined too many times. My fingertips grazed her temple, then lingered at her jaw. She shivered, not from cold, but from something she didn't name. "Say it," she whispered. Her voice shook. "What?" "That you want this." The words lodged in my throat. Saying them made it real, irreversible. "I want this," I said. Bare, unpolished. Her eyes fluttered shut, as if the admission itself touched her. She leaned into my hand just enough that I felt the weight of her choice. Then she moved closer, so close her breath brushed my mouth, warm and uneven. My chest ached from holding still. Her hands rose, trembling, pressing lightly against my shirt as if to stop me, or to steady herself. The fabric bunched in her fists. "This is wrong," she murmured, but her lips hovered a whisper away from mine. "Then stop me," I breathed. She didn't. The moment cracked wide open. Our foreheads pressed together, our breaths mingling, our restraint collapsing under its own weight. And then, her lips found mine. Not cautious. Not careful. Messy, aching, years of loneliness unraveling into that single touch. The kiss wasn't graceful. Teeth brushed, breaths tangled, hands unsure where to rest. But it was real. Raw. I pulled back only an inch, my voice ragged. "Now we can't go back." She shook her head, eyes glassy but sure. "I don't want to." Her hand slid down my arm, fingers intertwining with mine, firm, deliberate. No hiding. No denial. The clock kept ticking, steady and unbothered, as if mocking how the world outside might still judge, still whisper. But here, in this small room, the choice had been made. We stood in silence, breathing hard, hands locked, knowing what it meant. For the first time, there was no almost. No pretending. She looked at me, steady now, her voice low but clear. Now you understand. And I did. The kiss left us both breathless, but not undone. We didn't rush into another. Instead, we just stayed there, holding on, as if pulling back would erase what we'd finally admitted. She leaned into me, her forehead resting against my chest. My arms came up slowly, almost hesitant, then wrapped around her. A real embrace, heavy with everything we'd been holding back. Her sweater smelled faintly of soap and rain. My chin brushed the crown of her head, and I closed my eyes, sinking into the quiet of it. For the first time, there were no words filling the space, no frantic explanations or half-apologies. Just us. Breathing. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, muffled against me. I've been so afraid. I pulled back just enough to look at her. Of what? Her eyes lifted, tired but clear. Of being seen. Of being judged. Of wanting something I shouldn't. I reached up, brushed her hair back from her face again, slower this time, fingers lingering at her cheek. You don't have to be afraid with me. She searched my face, as if testing whether I believed my own words. Whatever she saw there, it softened her. Her shoulders lowered, and she let out a breath that sounded almost like relief. I don't want to hide anymore, she admitted. Something nodded in me at that. I didn't answer with words. Instead, I pressed my forehead against hers again, closing the last inch between us with quiet certainty. Not a kiss this time, just stillness, skin against skin, a promise and silence. Her hand found mine, fingers weaving together firmly, not tentative. This time, she didn't pull away. We sat down on the couch, still holding hands, still pressed close. The lamp beside us cast a warm glow, softening the edges of everything. The storm outside had passed, leaving only the faint patter of water dripping from the eaves. I studied the way her thumb brushed unconsciously against my hand, small and steady. She didn't even notice she was doing it, and that made it feel more real than anything. I don't know where this goes, she said, eyes fixed on our intertwined hands. Me neither, I answered honestly. Her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. But I know I don't want it to end tonight. That was enough. We leaned back into the cushions, her head finding my shoulder as naturally as if it had always belonged there. My arm wrapped around her, pulling her closer, and she let herself sink into me. The clock ticked, but for once it didn't feel like it was running out on us. Time felt different. Slower. Kind. Her voice drifted up, barely audible. You make me feel young again. I kissed the top of her head, gentle, lingering. And you make me feel like I finally know where I'm supposed to be. The silence that followed wasn't empty this time. It was full, of warmth, of trust, of a decision we'd already made without saying it outright. We didn't need to define it. We didn't need to explain. We just needed to stay right there, together, in the calm after everything. And we did.